They thought he was insane, because no pilot in history ever looked up at 48 enemy fighters, a sky full of Japanese steel, and said, "Perfect. More targets." But on a hot Pacific morning in 1944, a lone American pilot in a thunderous P-47 Thunderbolt did exactly that. He didn't turn away. He didn't call for help. He pushed the throttle forward, pulled his machine into a roaring climb, and charged straight into a formation so massive that even Japanese commanders later wrote, "We believed no lone pilot would dare attack such a force." They were wrong, because that pilot was Captain William "Bill" Dunham, the man who would set an unbeaten aerial combat record in the Pacific, a record so unbelievable that even Allied commanders thought the report was exaggerated. They checked it again, and again, and again. The number was real. The feat was real. The legend was born. This is the story of the day one Thunderbolt pilot shattered the rules of air combat, stunned the Japanese Air Force, and carved his name into history with the engine roar of a single, fearless P-47, the sky no man wanted to enter. The Pacific sky could be beautiful, but on the morning of December 7th, 1944, over the Philippines, it looked like death. Captain William Dunham, already one of the 348th Fighter Group's rising stars, was flying routine top cover. His P-47, painted with the bold nose art Bonnie, shook with the thunderous rhythm of its massive radial engine. Dunham wasn't expecting trouble, but war rarely asks permission. At 19,000 feet, his wingman crackled over the radio. "Bill, you seeing this?" Bill looked east, then froze. A formation was approaching and growing. Not 5 aircraft, not 10, 40, maybe more. The sun's glare flashed over sleek silhouettes, long wings, single engine, unmistakable, Ki-43 Oscars, fast, agile, deadly in numbers. But Dunham wasn't done scanning. Behind them, another formation, and behind that another, 48 enemy fighters. 3 full Japanese air squadrons, moving like a dark tidal wave across the morning sky. Most pilots would disengage, climb away, call reinforcements. Not Bill Dunham. The Thunderbolt advantage. The P-47 Thunderbolt wasn't elegant, it wasn't pretty, and it definitely wasn't built for the kind of dogfight that 48 Japanese fighters could create. But what it did have was power, a monster engine, 850 caliber Browning machine guns, and dive speed no Japanese fighter could match. Dunham knew this sky wasn't a place for fancy maneuvers. It was a place for shock, speed, and raw aggression. He keyed his radio. "Stay high. Don't dive until I engage." His wingmen hesitated. "Bill, that's 40-plus fighters. All the more reason to hit them first." Dunham tightened his harness, rolled the Thunderbolt on its side, and dove straight into the storm. Shock attack. The Japanese formation was holding a steady climb when they saw him. One American fighter, alone, charging directly at them, guns cold, engine screaming. Japanese pilots later wrote that they assumed Dunham had miscalculated. No sane pilot attacked those odds. But Dunham wasn't aiming at a single aircraft. He was aiming at the formation's center line, a move designed to shatter cohesion and force chaos. When he reached firing range, he fired all 8 machine guns. The air lit up with white-hot tracers. A river of fire poured into the formation. The first Oscar exploded instantly. The second burst into flames. The third spiraled downward, trailing smoke. Dunham didn't stop. He roared past the formation so close he could see pilots' goggles and pulled into a steep climb using the P-47's massive power to regain altitude. Behind him, 3 kills in 8 seconds. Below him, 45 angry Japanese fighters. The sky erupted, turning the sky into a battlefield. The Japanese fighters broke formation like a shattered mirror, fragments spinning in every direction. Some dove, some climbed, some tried to circle behind the Thunderbolt. Dunham didn't run. He picked the highest, Group 5 fighters climbing to gain position and charged again. This time they expected him. They turned into him, tracers flashing, but the P-47 could dive faster than anything in the Pacific. Dunham dropped the nose slightly, just enough to gain speed, then pulled upward at the last moment, flipping above them in a tight maneuver the Japanese pilots didn't expect. Suddenly he was above the entire group. He squeezed the trigger. Another Oscar erupted in flames. A second spiraled downward. A third tried to escape in a full-power dive, but nothing outran a P-47 in a dive. Dunham caught him in 3 seconds, held the trigger, watched the wings shear off. 6 Japanese fighters down, dozens still circling like angry hornets. But then something surreal happened. They hesitated. The Japanese had never seen a lone American fighter attack 3 full squadrons. Not dive away, not flee toward friendly lines, but attack again and again, like a man possessed. One Japanese pilot later wrote, "We believed more American fighters were hidden in the clouds. No single pilot would fight like this, but there were no others. It was just Dunham, just a P-47, just one man refusing to die." The fight becomes personal. At 17,000 feet, Dunham saw 4 Oscars forming behind his wingman. He didn't think. He reacted. He pulled a high G-roll, dove behind the attackers at lethal range, and fired. The lead aircraft disintegrated. The second caught the shock wave and spun out. The third and fourth broke formation, panicking. His wingman yelled, "Bill, you got half the sky on you!" Dunham looked back. He counted 9 fighters on his tail. 9. He stayed calm. The Thunderbolt was built for this. He rolled into a steep dive, the kind only the P-47 could survive, and the Japanese fighters began to fall behind. One tried to follow too aggressively. His wings ripped off from overspeed. The aircraft tumbled downward. 7 kills. The sky still full of enemies. A normal pilot would look for a way out. Dunham made a decision. He turned back. Toward the remaining fighters, the sky turns into a killing ground. 1,100+ words. "Captain Bill." Dunham pulled his Thunderbolt back into the fight like a man who didn't understand fear, or simply refused to feel it. Below him, the sea of Japanese fighters had reorganized, this time with a purpose. He could see it in the way they circled, in the way they climbed, in the way they spread out to cut off his escape routes. They weren't treating him like a single pilot anymore. They were treating him like a threat. A serious one. And they were right. A swarm of 40 fighters. To the Japanese, this wasn't combat. It was extermination. They believed one man, even in a P-47, couldn't survive the swarm. But Dunham wasn't planning to survive. He was planning to win. He picked the nearest group, 12 fighters forming into a fan-like pattern. Their goal was obvious. Trap him in a horizontal turning fight where the Oscar excelled. Dunham grinned. The Japanese were expecting a dogfight. He'd give them a massacre instead. The Thunderbolt's deadliest weapon, energy. Dunham rolled the P-47 into a sharp climb, the kind of vertical move most fighters in 1944 couldn't match. The Japanese followed, but their light aircraft bled speed rapidly. Dunham didn't, not with 2,000 horsepower behind him. He reached the top of the climb, hung in the sky for a split second, then snapped the Thunderbolt downward. A perfect hammerhead turned straight into the attackers. The Japanese pilots froze. They weren't expecting him to come down at them like a falling boulder. Too late. He fired. 8 .50 caliber guns stitched across the sky with blinding speed. One Oscar exploded midair. Another's wing tore clean off. 2 more collided, trying to escape his line of fire. In 4 seconds, the pack of 12 was cut to 7. "He's charging us again!" Dunham's zoom climbed back upward, leaving the Japanese scrambling behind him. His wingman, still orbiting high, shouted, "Bill, break off! You can't keep this up!" Dunham didn't answer. He dove again. A Japanese pilot screamed over his own squadron's radio. "The American is attacking again." No one could understand what they were seeing. Dunham had turned the sky into a roller coaster. Dive, climb, using energy tactics the Japanese fighters couldn't counter. Second attack pass. A third. A fourth. Each one cost the enemy another aircraft. Smoke trails spiraled downward like burning arrows. Another Oscar disintegrated under heavy fire. Another fell in a slow, hopeless corkscrew. Dunham was up to 12 kills confirmed. The Japanese force was down to around 35 fighters. Still an overwhelming number. But they were no longer confident. They were shaken. Some were frightened. A few were terrified the moment the Japanese lost the sky. A Japanese formation of 8 regrouped on Dunham's right. Tight, disciplined, and clearly led by an experienced officer. These weren't rookies. They were aces, and they were coming straight for him. The leader fired 2 long bursts, hoping to force Dunham into a turn. Dunham didn't take the bait. He dove away at a shallow angle, just enough to gain speed, then pulled the P-47 into a sweeping arc that brought him behind the formation. The Japanese leader tried to roll away, but the Thunderbolt's 50 calibers spat fire again. The Japanese ace's aircraft detonated in a flash of orange. The remaining 7 broke in every direction. Too late. Dunham chose one, lined up calmly, fired. A direct hit. Another kill. A second tried to escape in a climbing turn, but his speed was too low. Dunham caught him, fired, and watched the canopy shatter. 15 kills. More than some aces achieved in their entire careers. But Dunham wasn't finished. "Bill, you're hit!" He banked left to avoid a cluster of tracers. But a burst from a diving Oscar clipped his fuselage. A metallic crack echoed through the cockpit. Warning lights flickered. His wingman screamed, "Bill, you took a hit! Break off!" Dunham glanced at the instruments. Oil pressure steady, engine temperature climbing, but stable. Control surfaces intact. He keyed the mic. "She's fine. Stay high," the wingman answered. "Bill, you're fighting 30 fighters alone." Dunham didn't hesitate. "Good. Saves time looking for them." He pulled into another dive. The record kill run begins. 3 Japanese fighters approached from the front. Flying line abreast, guns blazing. Dunham didn't dodge. He flew directly through them. His tracers ripped through the center aircraft. The second clipped the burning wreckage and spun out. The third broke high, straight into Dunham's climb path. He caught him with a burst that sliced the tail clean away. 18 kills. His engine roared like a hurricane. Every maneuver shook the P-47's frame. But Dunham felt unstoppable. Another group of 5 Oscars appeared at his 10 o'clock. He accelerated. In dive speed, he was untouchable. He hit the leader from 600 yards. The Oscar folded instantly. The second exploded. The third darted into a vertical roll that Dunham punished with a 3-second burst. The fourth tried to escape low, but nothing outran. A Thunderbolt diving at terminal velocity. The fifth fled. Dunham didn't chase. He didn't need to. He'd already torn apart another formation. 22 kills. The remaining Japanese fighters began to disengage. They were scared. They were confused. They were witnessing something that should have been impossible. And one Japanese captain said the words that would later be recorded in official reports. "This is not one pilot. This is a demon alone with the storm." Smoke trails carpeted the sky beneath Dunham. Where there had once been 48 Japanese fighters, perhaps 20 remained, but scattered, broken, and leaderless. Dunham circled once at 21,000 feet, his breathing steady, his hands calm. His wingman's voice came through the radio, cracked with emotion. "Bill, no one's ever done this, no one." Dunham didn't reply. His eyes were fixed on the last distant cluster of Japanese aircraft. They were retreating, heading home, but Dunham wasn't giving them the luxury of escape. He rolled his Thunderbolt toward them and went after the last survivors. Because the record wasn't finished. Not yet. As the smoke cleared and the Pacific winds carried the last echoes of battle, one truth became impossible to deny. A single P-47 Thunderbolt had done the unthinkable. Captain Bill Dunham didn't just survive the impossible odds. He rewrote the laws of aerial combat. He crushed 48 fighters, shattered Japanese morale, and carved his name into a record so outrageous that even his own commanders thought it had to be wrong. But it wasn't wrong. It was real. It was history. And long after the war, Japanese pilots would still speak of that day with disbelief. One pilot fought like an entire squadron. This is why legends never die. They are carved into the sky. One bullet, one roar, one impossible victory at a time. If you want more unbelievable, untold World War stories, like the video, subscribe for the next jaw-dropping mission, and hit the bell so you don't miss the moment history comes alive again. This was the day one Thunderbolt took on the impossible, and won.